once a day we come with like a new idea, we try it out, we maybe like ship something on a beta to the users, keep improving it, and then actively training models, collecting data, feedback. I think that kind of becomes like the way you can improve these things.
Welcome to Partner Path, a podcast that unpacks the venture capital and growth equity ecosystem from a junior perspective. Young entrepreneurs and investors have already had a massive impact on the industry, having started unicorns and launched billion-dollar funds. We discuss these success stories and more by sharing perspectives and advice from some of the industry's most prominent role models. This podcast expresses our views as of the date published and does not represent the views of and is not endorsed by any company for which we work.
Today we are chatting with Div Garg, co-founder and CEO of MultiOn. Div has already spent time in AI as a lecturer on transformers at Stanford and at companies such as Uber, Google, Apple, and NVIDIA. Directly prior to MultiOn, Div was leading AI at Collaborative Robotics, a company redefining the future of human-robot interaction. Welcome, Div.
Hi, great to be here.
Awesome. So you've spent time studying and teaching at Stanford and interning at Uber, Google, Apple, and NVIDIA, all extremely successful organizations. So I'd love to start by hearing about any commonalities you might have noticed across these groups of people.
Yeah, no, totally. I would say like all of them are really big companies, and I kind of feel like once you work in a big company, there's like a common set of culture where like you get a sense of the processes and how things work. And I would say it's very different from startups, because startups, like, you're always in a hurry and you're always trying to get things done as fast as possible. And then you're fine with potentially breaking things and shipping fast, getting as much user feedback as possible. Whereas like if you're in a big company, things are more slower and you have more processes and like a lot more meetings and stuff like that. But I would definitely say it's like more streamlined. So you also get a sense of like what the culture looks like, getting a sense of like working with a lot of like different teams and being a part of like a more major culture, and then getting to like sort of like learn from people who have like built a lot of things before. So, but I would definitely say it's like a very different environment, and each company is different in terms of like how they operate, how they do things. So Google is like very open, but like there's like a lot of things going on all the time. Whereas Uber has more secretive culture, or like even Apple has a very secretive culture. And there's like I would say there's just how to see in that sense.
Were there any like key drivers of success you noticed within these organizations?
Yeah, I would definitely say everyone is really motivated. Like the teams I was working with were like sort of like a lot of like AI teams who are trying to see like how can we take AI, apply that in the real world, and productize a lot of these applications. And so, but definitely very ambitious teams. And it's hard to say because I think every company is different. But I would say like a lot of that is linked to like, I'm not going to say like startups are more free form, or like you're kind of like doing more things with personal motivation, where like in a big company what happens is like a lot of things are linked to promotions or like sort of like more bonuses and stuff like that. Whereas like when you're like in a startup, a lot of things become like more like personal, and you're like you're doing this because you want to do this and you can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, a little less bureaucratic.
But
before we dive into MultiOn, can you just give the audience a sense of what are AI agents and why are they becoming important?
Totally. So I would say the way to think about AI agents is something that can act in an environment, and so that can like take actions there. And the environment could be anything. Like this could be the physical world, like a robot, or like maybe like an autonomous driving car, for example. Or this could be something that's in the virtual world, in the digital world. In that case, it's like something that can like maybe like operate your computers. It can like do things on your behalf. And that's the kind of things we're trying to work with MultiOn. It's like sort of like an AI agent that can operate browsers and like do things for you by automating clicking and typing. And I think the value of agents is like, if you think about AI or even like AGI, for example, like no one thinks like AGI will be a chatbot. Like it's like it needs to do more than like just chat with you. And it needs to actually like be able to like act on your behalf, simplify everyday life, and maybe like change how you are interacting and doing things. And I think that's kind of the promise with agents. Like if you have this kind of like automated abilities, like these things are intelligent, and then can go and like do things without you asking to, even not needing to ask them to do things. I think that becomes just really, really powerful, because that can just save so much time, 100x productivity. And I think that's where we see like the agentic unlock happening.
Nice. Well, I'll turn it over to Will now to dive into MultiOn.
A good base for the conversation will be just outlining what you're building with MultiOn and kind of give the audience a grounding of what the business does and how someone could use it.
So I'll say the goal with MultiOn is we want to build like personalized AI agents that can go and act on your behalf. And so you can ask them to do a lot of things for you in your everyday life, like book flights, order food, send messages. And then you want to like enable like how can you do this at scale and make sure that everything is safe and reliable. Because we see like if we have all these agents going and doing things, a lot of things can go wrong. Like if you have an agent that's booking $1,000 flight, for example, what if it books a wrong flight, or like you get lost, or like something wrong happens? And there's just kind of like there's like really messy. And I think that that's what we're trying to do is like, how do we build the safe agents that people can trust, are personalized and safe and secure? And those are the value propositions that we are trying to build into the products and services we are offering currently. And the way to think about us technologically will be like, we want to build something that's like a virtual human. So it can do something similar to like what you as a human will do when you're like operating a computer. So it has like access to like a keyboard and mouse, and then it can go understand like UI interfaces, and then can like interact with the websites, interact with services. So you can ask it to like, okay, like go to like DoorDash and order me a burger. And in that case, it can go to like Google and search order a burger on DoorDash, can go to the DoorDash website, find the right restaurants, actually put something in your cart, navigate like menus, and then and the end actually place the order. And then this becomes like very interesting, because then it's kind of like a virtual assistant that is personalized to you, and then it can go and like start doing all these things in your behalf. And that's where we also see the world going. Like my belief is like by the end of this year, we'll have more than 1 million agents running around doing things. And I think we want to enable that to happen.
I think it's an awesome and interesting view of the world. And I think there's so many ways we can take this conversation. Before we dive into the agent world, I'd love to hear, Div, you have an incredible background, having studied at Stanford and worked at all these incredible companies. How did you choose to tackle this problem and focus on this side of the AI agent world?
I will definitely say like what I did was like pretty much a crazy thing, which I don't think like most people will do. Where like we chose like, okay, like what's the hardest problem to solve in AI? And we were like, this seems to be the hardest problem. It seems to be like, okay, like how do you take agents, make them really reliable? And kind of like, how do you make this kind of general purpose agents? And then we were like, okay, like this seems to be the hardest problem to solve. So let's just go and solve that. And it doesn't matter like if it takes us 5 years. And that was kind of like the key decision making. We were like, okay, like this just needs to be solved. And we seem to have the right technical background or the right product background to like understand like how to do this really well, and then like build this into an experience people can use. And that's just been interesting to see, because I think like now there's like so many different things out there, like, you know, like image generation, video generation, and like audio generation, stuff like that. But I would say like people are like starting to like get better and better. Like you can see like those things are getting like really good. You can start using them every day life. But agent is something that just like another like frontier. It's just like very hard problem, because there's like so many things that can go wrong. But we see it like if you can crack the problem, I think that's kind of like also the biggest rewarding like problem in the space, because that just can enable so many things.
I think before we dive into trying to understand who else might be competing with MultiOn in a business like this, I think it'd be interesting to talk about how this view of the world and how these agents can impact very large incumbent companies today. If you think about search and what this does to SERPs in disrupting advertisements, obviously there are incredible implications. Maybe just talk about who is this going to impact most heavily, and then kind of dive into who you're kind of tracking closely and who could be kind of competing in this space.
So I'm definitely say if agents start working in the real world, I think a lot of things will disrupt, because you won't have how you measure advertising metrics is like click-through rates, on like how many people are like number of eyeballs you have on a website. But that will all change, because you can imagine like instead of like human eyeballs, basically like just like agents going and like doing things. And then that kind of disrupts the whole like advertising industry at scale, especially if you look at like Google advertising, or even like what Facebook advertising models that are out there. And I think it's something that's going to happen. I think advertising will evolve a lot, because like the primary way you will interact with the digital world will be through some sort of agent. And then you're asking the agent, like, agent, go book me a flight, agent, go do this for me. And so like a lot of the advertising might like switch towards like the recommendations that the agent might give. Or like even like if you imagine I say like, okay, book me a flight, and then the agent can choose whether I should go to United or I should go to Delta. And then based on that, there could be like some sort of like different advertising streams. But so we definitely see like advertising will change a lot, because just like the interaction patterns on the internet will be very different. I do believe a lot of the traditional services might remain the same. So if you're like something like United or DoorDash, then you still have this agents going and using your services. But it's actually like beneficial, because like, okay, like they're still bringing transactions, you're still getting purchases. And it's not like taking away the core value of a business. So I think like most of the service businesses, which are like actually providing some sort of like service value, they will be pretty much unaffected because they're just getting the alternate traffic routes. But I think advertising as a whole will become very different. And I think it's something we'll just have to like figure out how will that happen, how will that look like. And then in that case, like a lot of like big businesses like Google, which sort of like is very much like an ad-based business, will change a lot. I think we're starting to see that happen. I think it's still very early to predict like how things will look like. But I do think like agent-based advertising will be like an interesting thing that we might start seeing like maybe like next year.
Interesting.
Basically, the agent is veering off because Google is making money because they have the top sponsored spots, and essentially human behavior will direct eyeballs and potential clicks to those top spots, even if the actual website that you're looking to find isn't there. Agents obviously can clearly direct around that. So the idea of sponsoring kind of leading the agent to a different answer is really interesting.
Yeah, I would say like the most critical take here is like SEO might die. Like people spend a lot of time doing like search engine optimization, but like it's like that might become totally irrelevant like as an industry.
Yeah.
Well, I think an interesting company that gained a lot of attention or garnered a lot of probably traction at first was AutoGPT. It came out last March and then kind of fell off. Why would MultiOn kind of be able to withstand those headwinds?
Like I would say AutoGPT was a really good demo because it was I think the first level demonstration showing up like GPT-4 can actually be used for this kind of recursive agentic tasks. And I think like most people were mind blown. Like we didn't imagine like something like this is possible. But I think like I would say at the end it was kind of like a demo. It was showing okay like this kind of capabilities are possible, but it was not like a mature product that anyone can use. And I think a lot of people tried using it, and then it often failed or hallucinated or ran into like looping issues where like it's like trying to do something, but often just like repeating the same task again and again. And I think that's kind of like the things where we've been seeing with like a lot of early agents. It's like okay like they're like really good demonstrations or prototypes, but they're not like actual thing that you can start using. And I will say this is something similar to maybe like autonomous driving, for example. So if you look at the autonomous driving industry, so they started in 2010 with like Waymo and like a bunch of other people. And it took them like 10 years to mature and build like a self-driving car that can drive like 99.9% on the roads. So if you are in SF today, you can get take a self-driving like Waymo and like use that, but that still took them like 10 years to get there. And before that, they just had like a lot of like small demos where like, okay, like the Waymo can like drive in a circle around the Google office or can like do some like very, very simple things. And that's kind of what happens when you're inventing a new technology. I think it's a kind of like, it takes a lot of steps to get there for it to mature. And I think like we are still in like the early steps where like the technology is not mature. People are figuring out how to make it like become better and better. And that just requires a lot of like perseverance. It just requires a lot of grit. Like, okay, like is this something that you see yourself spending your life trying to solve for like the next 5 years? And that's kind of like the sort of the take we have taken in MultiOn, where we are like very, very passionate and dedicated to this. Like, how can we go and like solve this problem? And then like just keep iterating and keep experimenting. Okay, like what can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it better? And then I think we're like basically experimenting and iterating. Like even like once a day, we come with like a new idea. We try it out. We maybe like ship something on a beta to the users, keep improving it, and then actively training models, collecting data, feedback. I think that kind of becomes like the way you can improve these things. But I would definitely say it's like a long-term problem, just because like you can have something that works maybe 80% the first time, but then you have to like keep climbing the accuracy ranks and like get the next 5%, and so on, and until like this can become something that everyone can use.
What's something that you shipped as a beta that didn't work?
I think we shipped this skills system last year. And the idea there was like someone can go and customize the agent on different websites. And then it's, so if you're on like something like LinkedIn, for example, you can give it a skill. Okay, like you should send, I don't know, like cold outreach with like this specific template. And then you can like, or you can give it like, okay, like when you should like act like this recruiter or something. So you can give it like kind of like almost like a personality. Okay, like this is what you should be doing. And that was very interesting. I think we didn't promote it enough, or like people didn't understand how it actually works. So that was actually a very interesting system, but I think like we didn't get like the traction we were hoping on that. And then we've been iterating on like how do we sort of like make it easier for people to customize or personalize their agents that they're using with us.
How important is the API connection that these agents have, and what has been progress there? Because you obviously need to interact with a lot of these websites or businesses.
Sorry, to get more clarity, do you mean like using APIs to interact with the website, or something like we are developing?
Yeah, exactly. How are you interacting with a LinkedIn typically?
So how our agents work today, I would say it's like almost mimicking a human. So it's like how you go to LinkedIn, you can like click and type and put in a search. So our agents right now are not using any APIs. They're just using the browser, and they know how to like automate browser interaction. So they can like go and click on a form, or like click on a search box, type something, click on like different candidate profiles, open it, read the screen. It's almost like a virtual human. So it's like it's navigating the front end. And then we don't have to touch the backend part of the APIs, because what happens with APIs is they keep changing. Each website has a different API. So it's kind of like very, very hard to even like get access to the APIs and then understand the APIs and then like build something that's general is very hard. But if you're building something that is like a human, it's like sort of like it knows how to like click and type and understand screens and like interact with like a browser. I think that kind of becomes powerful because that's very general, and then you can like do that on any kind of website. And that's how I would say like today we are trying to do things. There's also this interesting talk from Sam Altman. I think this was 2 weeks ago. And then he was talking about actually how he sees UI as a shared interface between like humans and AI. Because what happens with APIs is like if something goes wrong, you don't know what happened. And then there's no way to like track the failure. And it's kind of like a very bad like sort of experience. But if you have an agent operating a UI, then it's kind of a shared interface with a human. So if something goes wrong, you know, okay, like what went wrong, you can also see the agent. You can like, it's almost like operating in like the same space as you. And then becomes like a really interesting experience as these things keep becoming better over time.
Laura and I are thrilled to announce a partnership with Grata, an intuitive deal sourcing platform. Keep missing out on private market deals? Ditch the Rolodex and get Grata. Grata's AI-powered platform provides access to accurate data, deep insights, and time-saving workflows that help get more deals done. And it's trusted by over 500 firms and 3,000 deal makers, including myself. I've personally used Grata in both my deal sourcing and diligence workflows and would recommend their tool to any investor across private equity, growth equity, corp dev, or investment banking.
A big concern right now, too, that companies are having to weigh is what will OpenAI, ChatGPT 4, 5, 6 do? Is how have you thought about that as you've continued to build? And do you see them as a competitor?
So I would say not right now, just because like they are still like focused on chat, where we're doing more like actions. It's possibly in the future as these things evolve, they have more agentic abilities. And like once you have agentic abilities, then it's kind of interesting to see like which different directions it will evolve in. So when, for example, GPT-5 comes out, I think we'll have to see like what that looks like, what other capabilities that OpenAI is trying to offer there, and what all can you do. One thing I will definitely say there is like agents is such a general problem. Like it's like almost like saying like at this, like currently like saying like building agents is because just there's like so many agentic companies. It's just like saying like you're building software, like you're a software company, which is like, okay, like everyone is a software company. Like that like what else are you doing if you're not a software company? And it's kind of like what's going to happen and over the next years. Like it's like everyone will be an agent company. It's like because that's the only thing to do. But kind of becomes like, okay, like what specific like problem you're trying to solve, and then what does the agent look like? And I think that will become like a very interesting ecosystem over time.
What will your agent look like over time?
Yeah, so I'm saying we see ourselves maybe like more as a personal assistant, because like, if you want to like directly be able to interact with the users, learn from them, and then be able to like orchestrate things on their behalf. And it's possible like there might be like different agents for different like things in the background. So like suppose there's email agent, or there's like a Slack agent, and then maybe like travel agents and so on. But we want to become like sort of like your like personal agent in that sense. So you're talking to like MultiOn agent, and the MultiOn agent behind the scenes and go talk to like a bunch of hundreds of different agents in the digital world, and then can also maybe like talk to like someone other person like MultiOn agent. So you're MultiOn agent, and someone else has one, and the agents can interact with each other and like maybe like coordinate schedules and do like a lot of things. And then you just have the agent communicate to you, okay, like here's what I found for you, or here's all the like itinerary looks like if you're traveling somewhere, or like it can go and like book meetings and like create schedules. So we do see ourselves like the agents solving a lot of this coordination and a lot of like the online finding information, doing research, and like booking things, kind of like problems we have today.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating future to think about, us all having an army of agents that are talking to each other's agents. I'm almost curious to hear, what do you think the limit is, the upper limit is on what these agents can do? Where will we always have human intervene tasks?
And then the upper bound is basically like the data. So the quality of data you can get. And so I will say like it's possible to make these agents as good as like at least the average human in doing a lot of these interactions. And then if you might even be able to make it like as good as an expert human, maybe like just like some sort of like a really experienced executive assistant. I just like really can like do this really well. I will definitely say though it's not possible to reach 100% accuracy, because what happens with these models are they're like stochastic, so they are like a probability function, And when you ask it to do something, like even if you ask GPT-4 to do something, like give it the same prompt like multiple times, it will come out with different outputs. And I think the same thing will happen with agents. Like if I ask the agent to do something, it's possible like different times might come with like different outcomes, or might do something slightly different. So I don't think like we'll be able to reach like 100%, like in the sense that like if you always work and like do the right thing. So there might be some natural upper bound there, but I think we can reach like some sort of like really good human level accuracy. It's as good as a human, but humans also make mistakes. And then there might be ways you can like confirm with a user. Like suppose you want to book this $1,000 flight, then the agent can go do a lot of research, show you options, and like actually maybe like it can stop before it actually buys the flight and say like, okay, like I found this flight, here's what the cost looks like, here's what the itinerary looks like. And then you basically just go and press the confirm button. Okay, like I'm confirming that this is good to buy. And once you confirm, then the agent actually goes and does it. And something like that can prevent a lot of mistakes from actually happening. And we see like, okay, like this kind of like building these paradigms or building motors, I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I think having an agent like that to help with tasks of that style, I think is something I could use this afternoon. Pretty excited for that to happen. I'm curious to dive into the business model side of things. How do you think about charging for an agent like that? I would give a shout out to Cognition and in the team there, which are building AI that helps actually code software. And an interesting metric that they use is hours worked, right? Like theoretically, they're not actually quote unquote hours worked, but that's the way that they measure the output of the AI and what they're able to provide. With that in mind, I'm curious to hear, how do you know whether to pay your agent $5 a day or $20 every time they book a flight for you? How do you think through that?
I will definitely say, if you think about like the value of an agent, especially what we're doing is like time, because it's going and saving time for you. And then if you equate like, okay, like the saved time is equivalent to maybe your extra hours you could have worked, or like it's equivalent to like how much money that you can have earned in that time. And this search basically has this monetary value because it's going and automating like some job for you. And then it's like basically saving that equivalent amount of like money you can have earned doing the job yourself. So that you're basically like getting that money for free in a sense, because you're not doing the job, the agent is doing the job. And then if you think about that, like I think the value prop is, especially if you're busy, basically time becomes equivalent to money. And then like the agent is taking away the time problem. And then it becomes like, okay, like how much will you like to pay for it to like go and do these things and save you time? And I think like we have done a lot of experimentations here. So one thing we've tried is like a premium model where we can give like a bunch of free queries every day to a user. So right now we did this thing where we give 40 free queries to every user. And then if they want the agent to go do more things every day, then they can subscribe to like a premium plan. So we have this like a MultiOn Pro plan that's costs like $20 a month. And then you can go and like ask the agent to do maybe like work on like maybe like 100 plus tasks. And then like maybe like if you wanted to go and like do more things for you, then you can like maybe like get more add-ons, or like you can sort of like pay the agent more to sort of unlock more tasks in a sense. And so we see this kind of like how many things the agent is doing for you as like maybe like a good metric to measure. I think that's kind of like how much help you're getting or how much time it's saving for you.
Yeah, and you mentioned booking flights. Are there any other cool tasks that you've seen agents do?
Totally. So let's say definitely a lot around scheduling. So like a lot of people have been using like our agents for sending calendar invites, meeting kind of stuff. Also, we've seen a lot of people use us for a lot of like marketing stuff. So even like cold outreaches on like LinkedIn or email, a lot of like automatic posting on like social media, like even like Twitter, Instagram.
Oh, they're coming for us, Laura.
But I would definitely say like one thing we've seen with especially the kind of agents we are doing, especially for a business, there's like a lot of like things you have to do every day, like recruiting is a job function, marketing has a job function, maybe like business development. And a lot of that is just, you just need to be really persistent and keep doing the same automated thing again and again every day. And the agent is just like more naturally inclined, like just go and do that. And I think we see like those are the kind of things that a lot of people are starting to use as well.
And I think an agent is only as good as the data that it's trained on, which to your point earlier, usually has to do with training some sort of model. So are you leveraging your own proprietary large language model, or are you also looking to use some of the open source models?
So I would say right now we are leveraging a lot of our own proprietary models that we have trained in-house. And we are doing a lot of stuff around like self-correction. How do you make the agents become better and better? Because what happens with like, especially on websites, is that websites are dynamic. So they keep changing. I actually saw like Uber updated the website yesterday. And so what happens if a website changes? Like if the agent is just trained on a static data set, it won't work anymore because like, okay, like the data has just like the real world has just changed. So it's like, okay, like the data doesn't match with the real world anymore. And in that case, what you just need is like agent to like self-correct or like self-learn all the time. And that's kind of things we are trying to do. Where can we do things like reinforcement learning, learning from human feedback, probably like self-corrections where it can realize it made a mistake, get feedback, and then try to improve itself. And I think that's kind of the things you just need for agents to work in like this kind of dynamic real-world environments.
Maybe changing gears slightly, Div, you spent most of your career, seemingly most of your career, focused on product and building. You're now a founder at MultiOn. I think I saw you're maybe roughly between 10 and 20 employees. I don't know how many that could have increased, but now you're actually managing people as well, and you have to wear a lot of hats. So I'd love to hear maybe more about what you've learned in managing people and forming an organization through the creation of MultiOn.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I would definitely say, I think before I started, I think like you always think like things are simple. It's like you'll just get more people. So I was in my mental model initially, like, okay, like I can do X amount of work every day. And then if I add like 10 more people, then we can like 10X the amount of work we're getting done. But I think that's not how things work in an organization. You would reach some upper limit because you have a lot of communication gaps and you have to like set directions. And I think it's just like kind of like evolving game where like at each stage of the company, when you're like say like 4 people, then you like become 10 people or you become 20 people. I think this changes a lot, like the personal dynamics and how you communicate, how you like sort of manage a lot of people. And I will definitely say it's like an ever evolving game because I think like the things definitely keep changing. It's definitely much more complex than I imagined. Because I think when I started with MultiOn, I was like, okay, like we just want to go and build this agent and then the agent will go and do all the work and we'll be good. But that's not how things work, I guess, yet.
I guess, are there any particular skills around hiring that you've thought you've learned, or what have been your learnings around trying to build the talent behind MultiOn?
So I'll say we have always tried to go for the best people who are really passionate about what we're doing and about AI and agents in general. And I think like our strategy just has been like to just set a very high bar from the start. Like, can we hire the best talent? Can we build the best technical teams? Can we get people who really understand this problem and are willing to spend like hundreds of hours a week just to like go and like make this happen? And I think you just need that, especially when you're like working on a new technology that's kind of like a new revolution and they just want to make it happen. And yeah, I will definitely say just finding people that you want to like spend a lot of time with and have like similar like sort of like view of the world and are really passionate. I think that's very, very important. And
do you have any advice for people who are maybe younger CEOs or founders having to manage people who are a little bit older with more experience than them?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've definitely done that. I think you just get used to it. When you're like working with someone like who's like maybe like fresh out of school, that requires some training because they're kind of getting used to the job, and then you have to like sort of like give them direction, sort of help them train. But when you're working with someone senior, especially if they're good, they can just come in and like sort of like just understand the problem and solve a lot of things really fast. Ideally, also have like really good agency so that like they will see the problems and they already have the experience, so they can just go start solving the problems without you needing to tell them, okay, like we need to do this, we need to do that. So actually, I would say like you really have like good experiences, but it's also kind of like if they already know you and then they know what the company is, I think it's easy to sort of like set the goal setting, like, but I can definitely see like if you're a really young founder and then there's like someone who's like maybe like twice your age gap, and that can be like interesting dynamics. But I do think like that's something that you just get used to, because I think in a company there's like people from all ages and everything, and it kind of becomes like, what are we supposed to do, and do we get along, and like are people able to like communicate and like do like their job responsibilities really well.
The last area that I'd love to touch on, Div, is your experience and any learnings from capital raising. MultiOn, just through our conversation and what I've been able to read up on MultiOn, seems like something I would love to invest every dollar I have in. It seems like an incredible idea, and it's obviously in a really hot space, right? You have a lot of people that are backing these innovative AI-oriented businesses. Maybe just talk us through your experience in raising money now that we've gone through the talent acquisition side of things, and maybe any lessons learned there.
Yeah, totally. Like I would definitely say fundraising is always chaotic because it's a kind of like very opportunistic. It's like sometimes someday you will just get dumb shit thrown at you, and like some days you're like, okay, like, oh, like maybe we should go and raise money because I don't know, like we're reaching a milestone amount. And so it's kind of a very like much like changing thing. It's like, okay, like something might be hot like a week before, and like the next week might not be hot because like OpenAI announced something, and then like people are like scared and like OpenAI is going to go do something. And I think this happened a lot like last year where like, people were trying to do video startups or audio startups, and then OpenAI launched Sora, and everyone's like, okay, like no, okay, like we're not going to fund like video startups anymore. And that, I think it's just like very evolving game in that sense. So I will definitely say like being inert to like the chaos that happens with fundraising. I think that's very important. And also, I think just keep talking to a lot of different people, finding like the true believers who you think can be a good part of your journey. So like if you're working with someone, can you see those being really, really helpful partners supporting you, especially even like 5 years from now? Especially like suppose if they have a board seat, you don't want them to control the company or direct what you're doing. You still want to like sort of be able to set the directions. And then you want people who are patient. So you don't want like people to be like, you should just go and sell your company at like 10x valuation. You kind of like want like whatever like goal you've set, you want to like be able to like execute the goal and work really well. So I would say like the best partners you worked with are like ones who are like good, really good advisors, but they won't force your opinions on you and are willing to like sort of like be a part of your journey and mission. And I think that's what's very important when like fundraising, because I think once you have something that's working, I think that everyone will want to like give you money, and then just kind of like finding it and filtering, okay, like what's the right set of people to work with.
Right. And oftentimes it's hard to separate folks when everyone's trying to get into the business, right? You have to really go through and filter folks that can add value, and it's not easy to do. Given the audience here, are there any suggestions or advice you give to more junior investors on things that you should do or maybe avoid doing in your experience?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would definitely say what I've seen is a lot of like, I have some VC friends who are like very active in like the hacking community or like just know a lot of founders, especially on the younger side. And I've seen like that to be a good strategy, because like if you just know like what's happening at the edge, and then like, you're very involved in a lot of this like hacker communities or like all the new trends that are happening in AI, I think that kind of becomes an edge, because then you're able to catch on like what's the next trend before it happens. And I think that's very important, because usually what happens is like like some trend happens and then people want to put money after the trend happens or something becomes hot. But you usually want to like have more foresight to say, okay, like can you catch this thing before it becomes hot? And I think that this is like very important, like especially if you're just like starting on investing. Like, can you find trends that before they become big, can you like actually go and like sort of like capture that value?
That's an interesting suggestion. Maybe pretty soon MultiOn will be hacked by L. Hamilton 09 or something.
Awesome. How about we wrap with a quick fire round?
Sure. Yeah.
Will agents replace humans?
I don't think so, at least in the next 5 years. Just because it should be like a more cooperative thing. And both have different strengths, because agents are good at automatable stuff. Like I don't want to spend 100 hours planning a trip or like finding all this like furniture online or something. But humans are really good at like sort of like giving high level directions and like doing the actual choices, and then like making sure if something is wrong or not. So I think it's a very complementary relationship, at least for the next 5 years.
Are transformer models becoming commoditized?
Yes, I will say that, especially with like Mistral and Meta. I think it's kind of like the recipe is very clear. It's like people knowing the exact blueprint. If you want to train like a 70 billion parameter model, even like 100, like whatever, like 500 billion parameter models, even bigger, and just the right amount of data, compute, and like people. But the recipe is very clear. Anyone can go and literally make this at this point.
And what's the largest threat in the agent space?
I will definitely say security is a big one, just because like there's so many things that can go wrong. And like if someone starts building like agent viruses or like malware that's built on top, or like you can imagine like all the crypto scams that were happening. So if people started using like spamming the agent to like share bank details or like whatever, like try to make it buy Bitcoin or something like that. So I think security becomes like the biggest thing, especially around like phishing and fraudulent kind of like activities that are possible.
What's the number one task that you use MultiOn for?
I actually use that a lot for a lot of different things daily. I would say like ordering coffee is my favorite one. I just use that every morning after I wake up. And I'll say maybe like a lot for like sending documents to people. So like, okay, like send a document to this person or do that. Even like maybe like if you are doing like onboarding kind of stuff, it's like, okay, like we're going to go and onboard this person and like give them access to the Slack and like Google Workspace and everything. It kind of like does most of that. So it saves a lot of time.
Well, I am definitely a creature of habit, and I can't wait to have a multi-AI agent doing all these things for me. Div, this has been so fun to bring you on and chat about the future of AI agents. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your perspectives and advice.
Totally, yeah. Well, this is great. Thanks a lot.